download and upload more than ever before with an ultra-fast fiber connection. With 3 simple steps, you can be the one with an SLT fiber optic connection. Visit slt.lk.
Tonight, action needed. Former commanders of the Tri-Forces called on the President to intervene on the issue of unjustifiable arrest of Tri-Forces. Polls ahead. Minister Mano Ganeshan says that the Attorney General is called for the next party leaders meeting to seek legal advice on holding provincial council elections. New chief. Bar Association of Sri Lanka elects new president and secretary in an island-wide election. PC Kalinga Indatissa becomes the 25th president of the BASL with 4,700 votes. Nuclear blowback. A congressional report reveals that the United States is rushing to transfer sensitive nuclear power technology to Saudi Arabia. Tonight, Wednesday, the 20th of February 2019.
From Ada Derana, this is Ada Derana First at 9 with Ndivari Amuata and Mahesh Jani. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
And a very good evening and welcome to First at 9 right here on Ada Derana 24. Good evening, Ndivari. We are back after a short break.
Certainly, Mahesh, good evening. We're back after 4 days. It's wonderful to be on set again.
Indeed, and I heard about your trip to the Shripad.
Of course. Well, yes, I managed to hike all the way up, but it was a challenging task, especially with my weight right now.
All lies. People had to carry her back down, so that was the real story.
Well, people stay fit, stay strong. We get down to business now. We start off with your top story tonight.
Indeed. Now, President's Council Kalinga Indatissa became the 25th President of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka today, starting off a challenge from President's Council Mahinda Lokuge.
Well, he secured 4,677 votes during today's election of the BASL, which commenced at 8 in the morning, with votes being cast at 84 polling stations island-wide. Meanwhile, Attorney-at-Law Kaushal Navaratna became the new secretary to the Bar Association.
The election of the new president and secretary for the year 2019 to 2020 for the Bar Association of Sri Lanka commenced this morning with 15,806 attorneys eligible to cast their vote across the country. President's Council Kalinga Indatissa and President's Council Mahinda Lokuge contested for the top post of the association, while attorneys Kaushal Navaratna and Saman Valianga competed for the position of secretary. Accordingly, President's Council Kalinga Indatissa became the president of the Bar Association with 4,677 votes, while President's Council Mahinda Lokuge could only secure 1,416 votes. Kaushal Navaratna became the secretary of the association, garnering 5,074 votes, while Saman Valianga, who also contested for the post of secretary, only managed to gain 903 votes. Solicitor General President's Council Dappula de Oliveira functioned as the returning officer of the election. District Court judges, additional district magistrates and magistrates acted as returning officers at their respective courts.
Former commander of Sri Lanka's Tri-Forces today called on President Maithripala Sirisena to intervene in what they claim unjustifiable arrest of Tri-Forces personnel across the country. They specifically highlighted recent news reports of an attempted arrest of former Navy Commander Admiral Wasantha Karanagoda. Former Army Commander General Daya Ratnayaka is also of the view that it is high time the international community recognizes the positive strides made by Sri Lanka, especially in the rehabilitation of ex-LTTE cadres.
Over the past 3 to 4 years, personnel of Tri-Forces have been arrested on the various criminal charges. 2 soldiers were given the death penalty, while another 5 from the Army and the Navy are remanded. Newspapers recently reported that former Navy Commander Admiral Vasantha Karannagore is to be arrested as well. Admiral Karannagore was the leader who guided the Navy forces, which helped defeat the most brutal of terrorists in the world. He brought peace to this country. There was an attempt recently to arrest the commanders of Tri-Forces as well. Then they were going to arrest the Chief of Staff of the Army. I asked the President to intervene and resolve these problems. It is his duty to participate in these activities with us, but it's clear that his path is much different from ours. War crimes are not something that only one soldier commits. They're done systematically. We will not accept that such crimes happened on a systematic and a large scale. Please don't forget all those who served this country. Give them their due respect. If the rehabilitation process of former LTT cadres was successful, I believe we have fulfilled our duty as a nation. The international community must understand what we have achieved. It is his duty to participate in these activities with us, but it's clear that his path is much different from ours.
President Maithripala Sirisena pledges to set up a national fund within the next few weeks to ensure the protection of children in Sri Lanka. The initiative expected to strengthen and expedite the implementation of government programs launched for the benefit of children. Now, this initiative will also consider recommendations made through special social research reports on challenges and difficulties faced by children in society.
Colombo District Conference of the National Programme Let's Protect Children was held at the Sugatadasa Indoor Stadium under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena today.
I have initiated the process to establish a national fund for the protection of children in the country, which will be implemented in the next 2 to 3 weeks. The government recently considered the cancellation of the Grade 5 scholarship examination. I personally agree with it 100%. As per annual statistics, out of the students who have passed their scholarship examination, only 12 to 13% of students get selected to state universities. That means over 85% of students who get selected for universities haven't passed the Grade 5 scholarship examination. I'm not underestimating students who pass this exam, but we must make the Grade 5 students who fail their exam understand that their future is not dependent on it.
Well, political party leaders today decided to seek the advice of the Attorney General Jayantha Jayasuriya and Chairman of the Election Commission Mahinda Deshapriya on the topic of provincial council elections. As a result, the duo will be asked to attend the next party leaders meeting to offer their thoughts on moving forward.
Well, the terms of 6 provincial councils have already come to an end, with polls considerably delayed. Speaking to other Derana, Minister Mano Ganesan said that party leaders decided to explore the legal aspects on expediting provincial council elections.
The official term of 6 provincial councils, Sabaragamuwa, Eastern, North Central, Central, Northwestern and Northern, have already expired, and the tenure of Western and Southern provincial councils will come to an end in April. The term of the Uva Provincial Council is also set to expire this October. The Parliament's efforts to amend the Provincial Council's Elections Act by introducing a mixed proportional system instead of the proportional system failed, leading to a delay in elections. The delimitation report, which was prepared according to the Provincial Council Elections Amendments Act in 2017, is put to a review committee, and the Parliament is yet to receive the report. In such a situation, party leaders today decided to call the Attorney General and the Chairman of the Election Commission for the next party leaders meeting to get their advice on the matter.
We discuss how the elections had been delayed, and also discuss about the possible electoral system, and also we discuss about the legal provisions so that we can go back to the old system which most of us demanded. So therefore, Honorable Speaker promised us that he would have a discussion with the Attorney General and come back that report to the next party leaders meeting. And also he promised he would invite both Attorney General as well as the Chairman of the Electoral Commission to the next meeting so that we all can sit and discuss.
Meanwhile, Chief Minister of the Western Province Isuradeva Priya said today that Chief Minister of Uva and Southern Provinces are also willing to hold the Provincial Council elections on the same day. However, Uva Province Chief Minister Chamara Sampath Dasanayake quickly moved to quash any talk of his involvement in it, saying that it is the view of Chief Minister of the Western Province and not his. He added that he will only follow orders of the government and the Election Commission.
Chairman of the United National Party, Minister Kabir Hashim, today appeared before the Presidential Commission appointed to investigate corruption allegations levelled at the Sri Lankan Airlines and Mihin Lanka. The national carrier was once under the Ministry of Public Enterprise and Development, which came under his purview. Meanwhile, a trade union attached to the Sri Lankan Airlines made a complaint before the Presidential Commission, alleging that the cancellation of the Airbus transaction was done at a massive cost.
Minister Kabir Hashim arrived at the Presidential Commission of Inquiry this morning, which probes allegations of corruption at the Sri Lankan Airlines and Mihin Lanka. The Commission of Inquiry on Sri Lankan Airlines, Sri Lankan Catering Limited and Mihin Lanka Private Limited was appointed by President Maithripala Sirisena on the 31st of January last year to look into malpractices at those institutions during the period of 1st of January in 2006 to the 31st of January last year. After being questioned for almost 4 hours, the minister expressed these views.
I provided them details during my time as well as before that. A decision has been taken during Mahinda Rajapaksa's period to purchase 8 A350 aircraft. I gave all the details of the agreement with proof as to the suitability of them, whether we have the strength to operate these aircraft, and the huge gap between the lease mentioned in the agreement and the amount signed for by officials of the Sri Lankan Airlines later. In addition to that, they have also purchased 6 A330-200 aircraft. They have paid $895,000 for the first aircraft. But for the rest, they have paid over $1 million each. I also gave details of that transaction to the Commission.
Meanwhile, Employees Union of Sri Lankan Airlines affiliated to the Sri Lanka Freedom Party filed a complaint before the Commission today, alleging that the cancellation of the Airbus transaction incurred a huge loss to the national carrier. They charged that the cancellation was done while keeping the President, the Cabinet and the Director Board of the Sri Lankan Airlines in the dark.
Members of the UPFA today claim that they will reveal conspiracies within the Constitutional Council during the adjournment debate of the Parliament tomorrow. During a media briefing at the parliamentary premises, UPFA parliamentarian Udaya Gammampila said that President Maithripala Sirisena and opposition leader Mahinda Rajapaksa will join the debate tomorrow. Meanwhile, UPFA MP Mahindananda Alutgamage insists that appointments to the Constitutional Council cannot be made on whims and fancies of a select few.
The Constitutional Council only consists of the UNP, the TNA and the JVP. All of them work together, and no matter what, there were no criticisms when President made appointments back then. There must be a certain criteria as to how these Constitutional Council members should be appointed. The selected list of names must be presented to the Parliament. Members of the Constitutional Council cannot be appointed as per whims and fancies of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, the TNA or the JVP. The Speaker must take the entire responsibility in this regard. I will be touching on the Constitutional Council in Parliament tomorrow, where I will reveal all the conspiracies. When we inquire the reason behind the decision of one of the parties rejecting the nomination of a judge, a member of another party produces proof from her handbag.
Trade Union Chairman of the LTL Holdings Private Limited charges that the Secretary of the Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy veered away from the accepted tender procedure pertaining to the LNG power plant in Kerawalapitiya. Samira Ganegoda charges that the Secretary of the Ministry accepted the tender submitted by a Chinese company despite Lanka, a local company, submitted the lowest bid. Now, he went on to reveal that the ministry secretary called the hierarchy of Lanka Limited to the ministry and asked them to withdraw their tender, citing a complaint of conflict of interest lodged by a Chinese bidder. The conflict of interest claim relates to Lanka Limited having affiliations with the Ceylon Electricity Board. Given the sequences of events, Ganeguru questioned the motives of the secretary to the Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy.
And Leader of the House, Minister Lakshman Kiriyala, will head a 4-member committee appointed by the United National Party to probe the comments of State Minister Ranjan Ramanayake, where he alleged that some parliamentarians and ministers use cocaine. In response to queries raised by the opposition, Minister Kiriyala, he told Parliament today that State Minister Ramanayake's allegations were discussed at length at the UNP's parliamentary group meeting, and it was decided to appoint a committee headed by himself to look into the allegations. The other members of the committee are State Minister Iran Vikramaratne, Professor Ashu Marasinghe and Nisanka Nanayakkara. Minister Ranjan Ramanayake told media that over 20 past and present ministers and parliamentarians are and were users of cocaine.
A group of 12 parliamentarians, including UPFA MPs Dinesh Gunawardene and Vimal Weerawansa, were stuck inside an elevator at the Parliament for around 15 minutes on the 7th of this month. Now, they were on their way to attend the parliamentary sitting when the elevator suddenly came to an abrupt halt. The incident drew heavy criticism from the inconvenienced parliamentarians. A solution to the issue, however, now looks imminent. Deputy Speaker Anand Kumarasiri informed the Parliament today that all elevators within the premises will now be replaced with modern elevators.
I would like to make a statement regarding the complaint made by parliamentarians on the incident in which 12 MPs were stuck in the elevator number 6 on the 7th of February in 2019 due to a malfunction. As soon as this incident occurred, we informed the relevant company in this regard, and they have now produced a report to the Parliament. The report says that this particular elevator is 36 years old. It's been revealed that the incident occurred due to heavy weight once MPs had got in. The company recommends that all of these elevators within the parliamentary premises be replaced with new ones. I would like to inform the House that necessary instructions in this regard have been given to the Secretary General of Parliament.
Reports of the radiocarbon dating tests conducted on 5 bone samples from the mass grave in Mannar were presented to the Mannar Magistrates Court today. Last Saturday, Chief Investigation Officer, Senior Judicial Medical Officer Dr. Shaminda Rajapaksa received reports on 5 out of 6 bone samples sent for testings. 6 human bone samples obtained from the mass grave in Mannar under the observation of the Office on Missing Persons were sent to the Beta Analytics in Miami of the USA for radiocarbon dating to determine the time period in which the deaths occurred. Dr. Shaminda Rajapaksa said that the magistrate will give a verdict on the grave site after studying the reports, and publications. Publishing of reports will also be decided by the Magistrates Court.
Business news is on the other side of this break. Stay with First at 9.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel. This is Derana 24.
Welcome back, everyone. On to business news now. The Sri Lankan government is aiming to produce 315 million kilograms of tea this year, which is a 5% rise from last year. Minister of Plantation Industries Navin Dissanayake said that tea production has dropped to 303 million kilos last year, down 1% from 2017, mainly because of drought and excessive rains at different times of the year, and a ban on the glyphosate weedicide. Tea plucking had also been interrupted by a temporary go-slow by unionized workers demanding higher pay. Minister Derana is of the view that with more conducive weather prevailing this year, production will recover, aided by limited relaxation of the weedicide ban and negotiate a deal on a wage hike for workers. He added that black tea production had fallen to 260 million kilos in 2015 when he became Minister of Plantation Industries, after hitting 340 million kilos in 2014. The Ministry of Plantation Industries intends to introduce a proposal to the Cabinet to get Treasury approval to set up a fund for infilling and replanting. Chairman of the Sri Lanka Tea Board, Lucille Wijewardena, says the answer to the drop in crop was to infill spaces on estates and replant them with new tea bushes. However, growers are not willing, since tea prices are very good at present and planters are unwilling to uproot even one bush. He added that even regional plantation companies say the cost is too high, but he disagrees with the notion, since they can recover the cost in 4 years, and ills of the tea industry stem from shortage of green leaf.
Still in business news, 2 more renewable energy power plants are to be built in the Jaffna Peninsula with an investment of 4.4 billion rupees. Now, the Board of Investment said in a statement that they're among 3 new ventures awaiting commercial operation. One wind power plant, Vayu Shakti Viptpana, has an investment of 2.2 billion rupees, and the other, Yal Vayu Bhagavan, has an investment of 2.2 billion rupees. The investment promotion agency said that they will contribute 10 megawatts of electricity to the national grid. Now, this company will use 35,000 to 40,000 coconut husks per day for their manufacturing process.
Well, amid trade talks, China has urged the United States to respect its right to develop and prosper, reiterating that the country's doors to the outside world would open wider. The world's 2 largest economies began their latest rounds of trade talks this week to resolve a bitter dispute. The Chinese government's top diplomat was quoted as saying China too, just as the United States has the right to development and the Chinese people have the right to have a good life. State Councillor Wang Yi told the visiting U.S. delegation that respect and cooperation are the correct choices for both countries, something the international community hopes to see. Meanwhile, world stocks hit a 4-month high today on hopes of progress in talks.
Well, back in Colombo at the Sri Lankan stock market, the all-share price index fell 0.29% or 17.16 points to 5,880.17, while the more liquid S&P SL20 index was down 0.54% or 16.44 points to 3,006.41. Market turnover was 172.8 million rupees with net foreign outflows of 35.8 million rupees. We take a look at a brief report on today's market performance.
Dull trading activities were witnessed today in both debt and equity market as market participants remain on the sideline seeking a direction. In the equity market, turnover was boosted mainly by John Keells and Central Finance, while the bond market witnessed low volumes with overall yield curve remaining unchanged. At the today's weekly bill auction, 1-year T-bill slightly increased to 10.73%, while the rate for 6 months bill remained unchanged.
The Sri Lankan rupee closed stronger at 179 rupees and 60 to 75 cents against the US dollar in the spot market today, while bond yields were slightly up. At today's bill auction, the 1-year Treasury bill yielded edged up 1 basis point to 10.73%. The State Debt Department accepted 20.4 billion rupees of 1-year bills, having offered 10.5 billion rupees worth of bills and getting offers of 44.5 billion rupees. Now with that, here's a look at the day's foreign exchange rates.
Welcome back. In international news, Venezuela's opposition is trying to convince ruling Socialist Party officials to join a transition government, shifting focus as it seeks to unseat President Nicolas Maduro, who holds on to power in the face of growing international pressure and U.S. sanctions. Last month, Venezuelan opposition leader and Congress chief Juan Guaido invoked the constitution to assume the interim presidency after declaring Maduro's re-election in May 2008 illegitimate. In an effort to secure the backing of Venezuela's military, Guaido proposed an amnesty for officers who turn on Maduro's government, but defections have been minimal, and top brass has declared allegiance to the incumbent President Nicolas Maduro.
A new congressional report reveals that the United States is rushing to transfer sensitive nuclear power technology to Saudi Arabia. The House of Representatives Oversight Committee report notes that an inquiry into the matter is particularly critical because the administration's effort to transfer sensitive U.S. nuclear technology to Saudi Arabia appear to be ongoing. President Donald Trump met nuclear power developers at the White House on February 12th to discuss building plans in Middle Eastern nations, including Saudi Arabia, and lawmakers have been critical of the plan as it would violate U.S. laws against the support of a weapons program.
Access to U.S. nuclear technology is no secret. Last week, Trump met with a nuclear-powered...
And here in Asia, Vietnam is preparing for North Korean leader Kim Jong-un to arrive by train for his summit in Hanoi next week with U.S. President Donald Trump. The Vietnamese Prime Minister had told the summit organizing committee that security should be top priority. Trump and Kim will meet in the Vietnamese capital on the 27th and 28th of this month, 8 months after their historic summit in Singapore, the first between a sitting U.S. president and a North Korean leader. Now, negotiations have made little headway since then, and there is growing expectation that this time they need to reach a more specific agreement than at the last summit, at which they pledged to work towards the complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula.
To Syria now, lorries have begun evacuating people from the last area in Syria still held by the Islamic State group, and journalists on the front line had seen at least 10 vehicles leaving the village of Baghuz near the border with Iraq. A spokesperson for the US-backed Syrian Democratic Forces Alliance, whose fighters are besieging the area, have said they were carrying civilians. Yesterday, the UN expressed concern about the fate of some 200 families reportedly trapped in Baghuz, while Human Rights Chief Michelle Bachelet called on the warring parties to provide safe passage to those who would flee to and get protection as much as possible, and they wish to remain in the area or not.
Well, two prominent Roman Catholic Church cardinals have urged an end of what they call the plague of the homosexual agenda, telling bishops to break their complicity over cases of sexual abuse. In an open letter that comes on the eve of an extraordinary summit of bishops in Rome called by Pope Francis, the two cardinals say the Church has wrongly blamed the abuse of power by clergy as the main cause of the scandals, and that the case involves priests who have gone away from the truth of the gospel. They also openly criticized the Pope.
Well, a bold, beaming supermoon shone above the snowy caps of the mountains of the Greek island of Evia yesterday, making for a breathtaking sight. According to the Old Farmer's Almanac website, it is the brightest moon of the year and is referred to as a snow moon due to traditionally heavy snowfall in February. February's moon is the second of 2019, following the super blood wolf moon in January, while the next supermoon this year is expected in March.
We'll return with your sports news and weather forecast after this short break.
are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel. This is Derana 24.
Sports now. The Court of Appeal has given the go-ahead to Mohan De Silva and Ravin Wickramaratne to contest in Sri Lanka's cricket's election, scheduled to be held tomorrow for the positions of Secretary and Vice President respectively. The duo filed a writ petition at the Court of Appeal seeking legal assistance following their candidacy being rejected by the Appeal Advisory Committee appointed by the Minister of Sports. Mohan De Silva submitted nominations to contest for the top position of the local cricket governing body, but was only given the nod to contest for the position of Secretary.
Mohan De Silva and Ravin Wickramaratne filed a writ petition at the Court of Appeal challenging the decision by the Appeal Advisory Committee to reject their nominations submitted for the elections of Sri Lanka cricket. When the case was taken up before a bench of justices comprising Deepali Vijay Sundara and Arjuna Obesekara, Additional Solicitor General Sanjay Rajaratnam, appearing on behalf of the Minister of Sports, said that there is no hindrance in Mohan De Silva contesting for the position of Secretary, while Ravin Wickramaratne for the position of Vice President. Mohan De Silva submitted nominations to contest for the presidency of the local cricket governing body, but will only be allowed to contest for the position of the Secretary. Accordingly, Jayanta Kedar Madasa, K. Mativanan and Shammi Silva are the only eligible contestants for Sri Lanka cricket's presidency.
Taking you to tennis, Simona Halep survived a challenge from Eugene Bouchard yesterday at the Dubai Tennis Championships to book a place in the round of 16. Well, the women's world #1 Naomi Osaka, meanwhile, she who split with her coach after he guided back-to-back Grand Slams, had a day to forget.
World #1 Naomi Osaka was beaten in her opening match at the Dubai Tennis Championships yesterday, losing to France's Kristina Mladenovic 6-3, 6-3 on her return to competitive action after winning last month's Australian Open. Osaka parted ways with coach Sasha Bain last week following her victory in Melbourne, saying she is not willing to sacrifice her happiness. Osaka struggled with her service game, winning just 48% of her first serve points and made 25 unforced errors as she folded in just over an hour. Earlier, Simona Halep beat Eugenie Bouchard 7-6, 6-4 to secure a spot in the last 16 against Ukraine's Lesia Surenko.
Well, in the weather seems to be quite erratic these days. Sometimes it rains, sometimes it doesn't. Even when it rains, it's hot.
It's the weather being the weather.
Exactly.
Well, we have Manusha Jayathilaka at the Derana Weather Centre with your forecast first evening edition.
A very good evening, everyone, and welcome to Forecast First. Looking at your temperatures now, the northern and northwestern provinces of the island are going to be rather warm than the rest of the country tomorrow, with Puttlam district expected to have the highest temperature of 32 degrees Celsius. And the central hills will have the lowest temperature during the day tomorrow. Moving on to your rain forecast now, there's going to be a low precipitation zone in the eastern as well as in the central provinces of the island, which means there's going to be some rainfall in these provinces during the afternoon hours. But overall, there will be sunny weather conditions throughout the day tomorrow. That's all that we have from the Weather Center tonight. Here's a look at your city-by-city weather forecast for the next 24 hours.
And that wraps up tonight's edition of First at 9. Thank you for joining us. Do log on to www.otherderana.lk and also follow us on our social media sites, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. I'm Indivri Amwatha.
And I'm Mahesh Johnny. Thank you for making us a part of your evening. Good night.